Hey Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Hey everyone, latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo. We are at the final non-conference game of the 2023 regular season as North Dakota State will welcome in the University of Central Arkansas, located in Conway. My colleague has been to Conway, Arkansas many moons ago,
covering Minnesota State, Moorhead, then Moorhead State. Was it the NAIA semis or quarters? I can't remember. But made the flight down there, landed somewhere, and then we had to stop for directions. And I've told this story numerous times, but we stopped for directions because there's no GPS in like 1991. You had a map, and we still weren't really sure. And the woman said, "Yep, it's halfway between Pickles Gap and Toadsuck." Yes, so that helps.
You have to do a double take when you heard that.
That helps.
Are you just literally joking with me that these are town names?
Well, then I looked at Corliss. No, Corliss wasn't. He might have been flying still, or he might have been the co-pilot. We looked at each other. I know it was Bill Freeland, and just like, okay. How about east, west, north, or south?
Yeah,
just
right?
point.
Just point us in the right way where we got to go. But that is the opponent. The Bison actually will make a return trip to Conway. That'll be in the fall of 2026. And for people that don't know about this school, they have one of the more unique football fields. They have the stripes, the purple and gray football field. They've done this for, gosh, I think a better part of a decade.
It's been a while.
That they did that. So, and this is a proud football team, Jeff. They have had success. They won the Southland Conference not even that long ago. FCS playoff team. They were a seeded team in 2019. They were on the same side of the bracket, actually, as North Dakota State in 2019. They were the 8th seed, got beat by the one-man wrecking crew that is James Robinson and Illinois State that year. But Nathan Brown, the head coach, brings in a talented team, got some transfers, and this is going to be, I think, a fun football game.
Well, let's just lay it out. I mean, if the Bison don't play well, they're not going to win this game, I don't think.
I agree.
Because Eastern Washington had some athletes, but I don't think they had the stuff up front. And this team brings in, and I underestimated this in my predictions or my thoughts on it, but David Walker is the ASUN Player of the Year, and he's really good defensive end. He can mess things up front. It's something. It's a player Eastern Washington didn't have. It's a player Maine didn't have. It's a player they have. They have a running back that's better than anybody that Maine and Eastern had, and Shunderick Powell. And by the way, those are two players who transferred in from, let's say, lesser programs. David Walker was a Division II.
Deep guy.
He came in from Southern Arkansas.
Right.
And then you got, whatever, you're going to go to Division I. Well, kids develop. Shunderick Powell was the ASUN Offensive Player of the Year last year.
At North Alabama in the same league.
Transfer portal, baby. It makes a difference, because in the old days, he would have to sit out a year going from FCS to FCS. And now, guys, it just makes it more readily available for teams to get better in a hurry.
Levels the playing field.
You need a player? Okay.
Yep.
Go poach somebody.
I am intrigued.
And that happens
as well, that I believe it's 9 or 10 guys Kolpack played on the Central Arkansas team that was here in 2020. I know you wrote about it, and you can read it at inforum.com about that game, and we'll get to it here in just a second. But that was such a different atmosphere than what is going to be on Saturday. Even if it's not a huge crowd, it's more than what the 500 people that were here for that game in the fall of 2020.
Well, I got two thoughts on that. Number one is, at least Central Arkansas has guys who have been here, and that's a difference. And that was where Maine last week. They had players, they'd never been in a situation like that. And so Central Arkansas, at least they know the logistics. They know the airport. They have guys, they have a coaching staff, and they have people in the program that know what it's like and know what to do. And there's a certain element of comfort in that. And number two, 2020 was so forgettable that I wrote about today. That game is irrelevant.
Don't want to acknowledge
Almost don't even want to acknowledge it. It's such a different time. Talking to Jaden Price on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And because he was one of the players that was still on the team for NDSU. And
got his first career pick in that game, actually, against UCA.
he did. Okay. And he goes, it's such an up and down time. You just sort of strike it from memory. He goes, you don't miss waking up every morning and wondering, okay, what's going to happen today?
Wondering if I'm positive today.
Are you going to play?
Right.
And the team, and I don't know how public this is. I wrote about it in my COVID Kids book, but the team, and I found this out after the fact, way after the fact, that Entz didn't even know 20 minutes before the game was going to be played because they hadn't received word from the state lab in Bismarck, who has some sort of overseeing power in okaying the game, and all tests were negative. And so they went into warm-ups not knowing whether they're going to come out of the tunnel and play the game. And it wasn't until, I believe he said, Scott Walken came over, 20 minutes while they're doing some sort of one of the final drills and warm-ups, and said, okay, all clear.
We're good to go.
That is
wild.
when Matt Entz knew for sure that game was going to be played.
That is one of those stories now you look back at 3 years later and say, wow, that's, again, just where we were at, what was going on then.
And I asked Matt earlier this week at the press conference, what are the lasting memories or what sticks out in the 2020 game?
Yeah.
And he really put it behind. And he goes, let's just say it was a different time. And I wrote about it, and the translation of that answer was, next question.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
He did not want to talk about it. But
I get it. I wouldn't want to talk about it either.
It's obviously there, and it's something, we're going to chat about a little bit on Bison Game Day. And that was a great story that you shared there on Saturday morning. But that's kind of the backstory to what this is, because NDSU tried to play that fall. Central Arkansas did, Jeff. They played 8-9 football games that fall, including 3 FBS opponents. They came up here. And to me, I told Nathan Brown this, the head coach, on Monday. I'm like, you guys were the smart ones, honestly. They did not play in the spring. They did what they did. They obviously weren't eligible to play for a championship, but hindsight being what it was, and NDSU tried like hell.
Well, they wanted to join the MAC for that year. Because one team didn't play. Was it Northern Illinois? Somebody like that?
I can't remember.
They wanted to take the place
of Toledo or something like that.
Something like that. They said, we'll take their schedule.
Yeah. But they tried like heck to get in and play in the fall. And Central Arkansas, and Coach Brown alluded to it, said, you know what? It worked out for us. We obviously took our lumps, but it helped us in the long run, even here now 3.5 years later to where they're at now.
It kept a sense of normalcy and the timeline of players coming and going.
Very true. Very true. Because now, even today, you and I look at each other like, okay, well, how many years does he have left? Is he coming back? We even asked we interviewed 4 Bison guys on Tuesday. Every question of the upperclassmen, of the 3 I talked to, I asked, have you decided yet? I asked Jake Rock that. I asked a couple other guys, and they still are on the fence on if they're going to come back.
They played 9 games, 5-4. Austin P, Alabama, Birmingham, Most State. Most State tried to play as many as they could.
Most State played 3 in the fall.
Arkansas. They played Most State twice.
Yes.
Yep. A home and home.
Yeah, in the same fall.
Eastern Kentucky, Missouri Western. Eastern Kentucky, home and home.
Yep. They did what they had to do to play, and I applaud them on that. They also are in a time of when they came here in 2020, they were still in the Southland Conference. They are not anymore. They're when it's now called the United Athletic Conference.
I got it. I was going to say I got it. United Athletic Conference.
The UAC.
I now etched in memory.
UCA plays in the UAC, which is a joint league. They moved their other athletic programs into the Atlantic Sun, but the Atlantic Sun doesn't sponsor football. So they went into a sort of a consortium with the WAC and did that for 2 years. And now that fell apart, and they have a new name for it, which is the United Athletic Conference. And it might sound like a slight. It's like the island of misfit toys here. They've got schools from Utah to Florida to Texas. I mean, they're all over the place here.
The UAC is going to play into my pick on Saturday morning.
Oh, okay.
A little tease.
If you're asking how to name all the teams in the UAC,
no.
We don't have enough time for that for an hour pregame show.
Logan and Kyle would be going, like I did earlier this week when you asked me.
I am interested, though, because you brought this up on our Bison Media Zone show, how important this game is as opposed to their league games, because the league is
That's
new.
what I'm saying.
I don't know how how important they want to win a conference championship because it gives them an automatic berth to the playoffs, but there's no history to it, Kolpack.
Well, you look at their schedule, and this is the biggest game of the year on their schedule. It's got to be.
Outside of Oklahoma State. I mean, they open with Oklahoma State.
I think this is more important to them.
Really? Arkansas and Oklahoma are pretty close geographically. I think that'd be pretty big.
Nathan Brown called NDSU the Mount Rushmore of
right.
FCS football.
Right.
He didn't say anything about that. Oklahoma State. Southern Utah, Southeast Missouri, Stephen F. Austin, Tarleton, North Alabama, Eastern Kentucky, Austin P. Are there any schools in that list that you say, wow, we got to get up for these guys?
No. Not to me. I wouldn't know. And that, again, think of the travel there. They're going to Cedar City. They got a trip, Austin P, which is in Tennessee. They're all over the place there. North Alabama as well. It's a lot of teams. Tarleton's in there. This is a league that's made up of a lot of new Division I schools. There's 3 of them I just mentioned that are Abilene Christian, who they'll play the week after they play the Bison. Those are all new to Division I schools. So I think you're right on. Brown's right on that this is their highlight game. Oklahoma State, they got a nice payday. And granted, Brown said to me, they shot themselves in the foot in that game. They had an excellent chance. They lost by 2 touchdowns, but they were right in it there. They had a chance to take it to Oklahoma State early on in that football game.
Bison have to play well.
What do you make of the Bison squad through 2 games, and what's your top couple takes from what you've seen through the first 2 weeks?
Improved defense, consistent defense, good tackling, better tackling than last year, certainly after 2 games. An offense, I think that's still it's been pretty good. I think the running game hasn't been maybe as.
Can I ask you about that quick?
Yeah.
So the 2 quarterbacks have had the lion's share of the carries. I asked Matt Entz about that in the post game on Saturday. He said, and I phrased it as, looks like the quarterbacks are taking the carries away from the running backs. And he said, I don't know if they've taken away. It's just how the game has played out. Is that in your mind, a concerted thing that the quarterbacks are doing that? Because you've got a horse in Tamarick Williams who barely got the football on Saturday.
Well, I was about to finish before you interrupted me.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But, okay, so where was I? Well, okay, the running game.
Yeah.
It hasn't been maybe as stout as some of the teams of Bison past, but I also think perhaps the other schools, the first 2, just stacked the line of scrimmage, and we saw the result of that in the first possession of the second half against Maine when NDSU had all those 8, 9-yard outs that were wide open. They say, okay, I think the Bison need to do more of that. If you're going to stack the box on 3rd and 1, then throw the ball.
Okay.
I mean, when there's 8 guys in there and you're 1-on-1 on the outside and you got, maybe some options in a passing game, take what they give you.
And they did that, and they moved the ball.
Cam Miller's 5 of 5 on that drive and looked absolutely outstanding, and there was little resistance. Once he got those 5 completions, also, okay, now maybe the defense has to adjust a little bit and play that a little tighter. Thus, is it that simple? Thus, the running game opens up?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see against it's
never that simple in football. Right. I know it's not, but it's on those kind of logical terms, I should say.
I think it's just interesting. You've got a horseback there in Tamarick who's barely got the football.
I think maybe by design you don't want to run guys into the ground.
Right, I got it. And you got Valley
there's
play
pitch
coming.
counts now.
I got it.
There's no more John Crockett. Give it to him 25 times a game.
Yeah. Just something that I'm with you. And also, I think on the offensive line, though, as well, I do not think they have moved the pile as well as maybe NDSU was hoping
I've heard
for.
that. I've heard that from I know at least one guy I know who follows offensive line play and is good at it. Said he doesn't think the push is there than that was last year.
It hasn't looked like it through the first 2 games, and they're going to have, you mentioned, some dynamite defensive ends, Walker being one of them, they're going to face in this game on Saturday. They're going to have a top-notch game. Ents came out and said it on Monday in the press conference saying the best defensive guy on the field is going to be wearing white. So if I'm Bison defensive player, I'm hearing that. I'm like, all right, well, challenge has been thrown down by the head football coach that he thinks the best defensive guy plays for the other team.
Well, being honest, good for him.
Be interesting to see how that
Cole Wisniewski's been pretty good.
Cole Wisniewski's been all right. Logan Kopp's been pretty good so far through the first couple games of 2023. So I am interested to see that. But on the back end, Central Arkansas has some guys, some cover guys that will get in your face. So to your point on the wide receivers, can they get open? That's the thing that was the bugaboo of 2022. Can they get open?
I feel like they've been better at it after 2 games. I think I've seen more separation, gut feeling.
Yeah.
I don't chart it, but gut feeling, I've seen more of that.
We've seen more guys get the football. 7 have caught their first pass here through the first 2 games of the season. So it's not just zeroing in on Mathis and Stuffle. Now there's other guys. Chris Harris got a catch. Terark got a catch. Mekhi Collins got his first catch. There are others out there that are getting targeted from Cam Miller, and he's trusting to get him the football too.
Boy, Mekhi Collins just has that physical look to him.
He's got it. He's 6'4", all of it too. 6'4", 215.
Is it sort of a Jake Winicky look?
I think that was the hope of when they got him out of high school, and I think the sky's the limit there. I really do. More opportunities. I think he's really gonna shine at that spot. One real quick thing, and I know Campbell's doing this for Bison Game Day on special teams. Griffin Kroos is nearing 100 consecutive extra points made. I know. I said it in the broadcast.
It's like the no-hitter.
I already jinxed him on the broadcast last week. But it's a really interesting story, Jeff, because 2019 he comes in, he enrolled early. He got to go to the White House with the team.
That's right, as he's still in high school.
He hadn't even done anything with the team. He gets thrust into the starting kicker job as a freshman when Jake Reinholtz got hurt. Then he's benched basically for 2 years because Reinholtz is the guy. And now here we are. Now he's been the main guy for the last year and a half and turned into a really solid kicker, I think, for the Bison.
The head coach said he's gained 25 pounds, too. Maybe that doesn't look like it, but that's good for his leg strength. Yeah. There's nothing better for a program and an offense to have a dependable kicker. And you just – I saw it in the Division II days with NDSU where – they almost had tryouts. Okay, anybody here kicked the ball? Is there anybody? Who kicked in high school? Raise your hand. Okay, you're the kicker. I think Gus Bradley was the punter.
Wow. Aaron Peterson was pretty good, right, though?
But that to me is more the modern era.
Okay,
I'm talking about 80s and
okay. But then in the Division I era, I mean,
Jeff Bowden was an offensive lineman from Williston. Wow. Straight on Fred Cox kicker.
Really?
I think he was, yeah.
But you've had Sean Bebo, who was pretty solid there. Ryan Jastrom was good.
But they started to recruit kickers by then.
That was my point. They put money into that spot. They got Adam Keller out of the state of Pennsylvania. Remember, we did stories on this. Wow, they're spending money scholarship-wise on a kicker out of Pennsylvania. And Keller is the all-time record holder.
When he had 36 scholarships, although some would say there was more than that somehow. But when they were down to 30,
you're not throwing
money in a kicker. Especially with a veer offense, what it takes. That was an expensive offense to run because you needed several running backs, you needed several offensive linemen, good, and so then there's the defensive component. But the veer was expensive to run.
That's good stuff. So we'll have more on that on Crosa coming up on Saturday. A couple other things here before we pick a couple winners. I wanted to ask you, and we did a little bit of this on Monday's show. On Hot Mic after the aftermath of the Montana State South Dakota State game, which the polls didn't change, and Montana State shouldn't be punished by losing by 4 on the road in Brookings. Does that say more about where the Bobcats are or where the Jacks are when you take out of that game?
Bobcats, I think certainly. I think the good competition at the line of scrimmage on both ends was a sign that Montana State has taken a step forward in that area because so often they've been blown out in that area of the game. I go back to that 2010 playoff game when the Bison destroyed. What was Jose Moeller? 2 of 9?
3.
Three of 9?
3 passes in that game.
But the Bison just ran over them, and they knew it was coming. They couldn't stop it. And Rob Ash, then the head coach of Montana State, said, "We got to get bigger, and we will get bigger after the game. We will even things up at the line of scrimmage." And 10 years later, that still hadn't happened. Maybe it's happened now.
Not with Viggs. I mean, he knows exactly what it takes to win.
Well, of course he does. Yeah. Maybe it just takes a while to find his guys. But I think I would have to take – I just don't think South Dakota State – you can't say they've taken a step back.
No.
I just think Montana State took a step forward.
Jackrabbits are playing at Target Field this weekend.
Oh, Drake.
They get the Target Field
experience. Is Drake playing everybody in the Missouri Valley this year?
Drake will take anybody that's paying. I will say that. They came
Stick
up here.
the basketball.
They take the paydays, man.
No, it's great. Good for them. I joke that, but God, it seems like they're on the schedule a lot.
They are. They played the Bison last year. They played UND to open this season, and they'll play in South Dakota State. That's the game, one of the highlight games this weekend going on down at Target Field. I have 2 stories I want to talk to you about, both out of the Mountain West Conference. Three, actually, because the Mountain West preseason favorites, Boise State, play the University of North Dakota this weekend. 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time, 10 a.m. Mountain on Fox Sports 1. I say this is ripe for UND, for them to get the Broncos, who are 0-2. What say you on this one? Not only your pick, but what do you think of...
who's the Boise coach? Not Chris Peterson anymore.
Andy Avalos is his name.
Andy Avalos.
He's the guy.
If I were Andy Avalos, I'd be very nervous about this game. Very, very nervous about this game for a couple reasons. One, you're 0-2, and maybe you take for granted that... And we said this all along. Okay, here's North Dakota coming in. Most of those guys probably never even thought about the state of North Dakota, much less a school up here. They were born and they were recruited to play the likes of, hey, you're going to place Washington, Air Force, Colorado. Those are the teams. They're FBS, not this North Dakota stuff. Two, it's at 10 a.m. local time.
Yeah,
that's early.
Yes,
it's different.
Those FBS upsets have happened in the morning.
A lot of them have.
I think even when UND beat Bowl at Wyoming, it was an early kickoff in Laramie that day, way back when now. So something to keep an eye on there, you're saying.
Bison beat the Gophers at 11 a.m.
Yep.
The second time was at night.
And the first time when they scared the heck out of them was at 11 a.m. kickoff.
They should have beat
them in that game.
Colorado State was
that was a night game. Iowa State was an 11 a.m. kickoff, as was Iowa was an 11 a.m. kickoff. So, again, just take it for what it's worth on that. I don't know. Boise's 0-2. They have to get a win.
What'd you say, 30,000 tickets left?
No, it's there's 30,000, but about 7,000 tickets left. So there's plenty of empty seats.
Oh, okay.
There's still plenty of empty seats, though, in the stadium. It's not going to be a full house for this one. I'm just keep an asterisk.
Can fans start drinking early enough to
I don't know on that.
Come out of their comfort zone and be rowdy?
Sticking in the Mountain West, Craig Bowles' Wyoming Cowboys will get some spotlight this weekend. They're 2-0. It's more the team they're playing because they're playing the University of Texas on Saturday. Bowles' team, though, off to a nice start, Jeffrey. And I'm intrigued on this because Texas, off the huge emotional win they had on Saturday when they beat Alabama on the road, and now they got Wyoming coming to Austin on Saturday night.
If you're Craig Bowl, this is the ideal time to get them. Absolutely.
Wyoming is a 30-point underdog.
But Wyoming only beat Portland State. Speaking of 31-17,
right.
Speaking of probably not playing as well after beating Texas Tech.
Yep.
Texas, then they have App State coming in.
Yep. And then they're into conference play after that. So I'm interested to see how this one goes.
I wonder what he's going to wear pregame. Has he shunned the tie?
I don't think so. That's not happening. Night game down there, too. That's on the Longhorn Network on Saturday night. Lastly, in Mountain West territory, Colorado State faces Colorado on Saturday night. Already, First Take, the Pat McAfee Show, 60 minutes, along with Big Noon Kickoff and College Game Day, are all going to be in Boulder this weekend. I don't remember a time when the two big morning pregame shows were at the same site, Jeff. Normally they choose to go somewhere else. That's not happening this weekend. ESPN has the game Saturday night.
I wonder what's 60 Minutes doing. Obviously Dion. What's their angle here?
Either on how he's transformed college football in a short amount of time. I don't know.
Our guy, Kobe Johnson
in there.
Has 7 carries. Well, one game. Yeah, 7 carries, 18 yards. No, 16 yards.
Dom Jones and Tony Pierce.
He's at corner.
Yep. All will be on the field for Colorado State for this game.
Kobe did score a touchdown.
Yeah, in the first game for Colorado State. So that'll be one of the games. What's the night game? I think it's a 9 o'clock start Central Time on ESPN. I just found it interesting that all of the pregame shows were going to be there. That's traditionally not happened before. So
we think that Colorado will win by 5 touchdowns. 4.
Colorado will win handily here.
Yep.
And that story's only going to get bigger. And then just for Bison fans to keep an eye on, because the 2024 season opener is in Boulder against Deion Sanders.
Tickets are going to be hard to come by.
Oh.
I mean, I've heard a lot of Bison fans go,
we're going.
I'm going, well, You might have to pay a little bit.
Yeah, it might not be as easy as you thought this time last year to get a ticket to go to that game. Lastly, before we pick, I'm intrigued, Kolpack. I'm DVRing this game because it's on the same time of our game. The Gophers in North Carolina. Minnesota has played some stout defense to start, and now they're facing maybe the number one pick in next year's NFL draft. Drake May is the quarterback in North Carolina. Matt Brown's team.
It's a game. We'll see if the Gophers are for real.
Yeah.
They usually the first part of the schedule, Nebraska, not
against with Eastern Michigan last week. No, this is a good one. And then they get into Big Ten play after this. So they still have another non-conference. They have Louisiana after this, but this is an intriguing game. I'm interested to see how the Gophers.
I'm surprised they're not playing Buffalo or somebody.
They got that out of the way already. They got their MAC team.
I'm surprised they're not playing another one.
They got their MAC beat up.
Got to get to 7 wins, Dom.
Either
6 or 7 wins.
You want to pick a couple games here that we're not going to do on Bison game day because we'll stay away from a couple of the top ones. How about the Smart Bowl? St. Thomas is playing Harvard this weekend out in Boston. It's the first game for Harvard because the Ivy League starts playing this weekend.
God, I wish the Bison would play at Harvard.
Oh, it'd be so cool.
St. Thomas showed me something on defense against South Dakota. I was impressed. They were always in the right spot. Just don't have a lot of playmakers on offense, but that was against South Dakota. I would think at Harvard, first game, and getting an FBS game out of the way, I would think the Tommies are sitting pretty. If they play well, they'll win.
Yeah, I like St. Thomas on the road in this.
I thought their defense was pretty good.
Yep,
it was pretty good.
I thought they handled themselves okay in that one. Let's see a couple others here before we go. There's not a ton of great matchups. I think we're actually picking that game, so I'll stay away from it. Northern Iowa plays Idaho State Saturday night. They got to get that one.
Wow, if they don't, 0-3 in Idaho State.
And Idaho State's bad. They're 0-2 as well. I know who they
have.
Played.
They ever been good? I mean,
well, yeah, probably like in the John Freeze.
Let me
era.
ask you this: is the seat getting a little warm under Mark Farley?
Boy, you go first. What do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if you're a staunch Northern Iowa fan, and I know a couple.
Yep.
Our general manager for one, you got to be a little concerned for sure. Mm. You can't go 0-1. You can't play it. You can't lose at home like they did to Weber.
Not to Weber. No, I agree. Is there an FBS upset with Sacramento State at Stanford?
Nope.
Troy Taylor getting against his old school.
No, I don't think so.
Stanford's not very good.
I know, but I think Sac State's not like they used to be.
All right. How about this one before we go? The two-time reigning Division II champions, Ferris State, is in Missoula Saturday night to play Montana.
Ooh, 2003.
They got a chance here. Does Ferris State have a chance to beat the Grizz?
Well, the Bison showed in 2003 you have a chance.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the top team in Division II
is pretty good.
It's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the level of play there. That's a good benchmark on where we are with FCS and Division II because I think FCS as a whole, since in the last decade, has gotten better.
But we've also lost the really good teams, though, as well. That's, you know what I mean? Like, the bottom of it is still not very good. And this is honestly, if you're Montana and you think you're in the conversation, you whoop these guys.
I'm not comparing to Power 5. I'm comparing to the MAC and to some group of fives. I think there's more competitive games in that subset.
If you're Montana, though, you don't mess around with it. If you're good, you do not mess around with Ferris State. You've got
interesting scheduling.
27 more scholarships. You best whoop them. It'll be fun to see coming up on Saturday night. Don't forget, Bison Game Day joins you at 10 a.m. on WDAY Saturday morning. To get you ready, Jeff, myself, Logan Campbell, Kyle Emanuel will be there, a cast of thousands, to preview the match between Central Arkansas and NDSU. Our kickoff show gets going at 2:20, and then the game shortly after 2:30 between the UCA Bears and the Bison, the final non-conference
scary game for Bison.
Yeah, I think this
is going to be.
Vegas has NDSU plus 20. Plus 20. Vegas normally isn't wrong on stuff. So
I don't bet, but I tell you what I would do.
I'd take Central Arkansas on the points. I'll tell you that right now on that. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, to the Kolpack and Izzo podcast presented by Gate City Bank. We'll see everyone at the Dome on Saturday.